Welcome, everyone. This is Kareen Mills, your podcast host. We are so fortunate today to have Darina Neyret, and she's going here as a stepmom, which I'm so excited because I haven't had a stepmom on the podcast, and I always have like biological moms. And it's funny because you ask me how deep I go, and I always I don't label moms. I think being a mother is an act. It's a role. It's not just a label. And so I know when I started the podcast, some of my friends that are stepmoms, I think I kind of maybe hurt their feelings a little bit because they commented on some of my posts and said, stepmoms are hard workers too, which I totally get it. You guys probably have it even a little bit harder because there's a layer of difference there as a stepmom. And for me, I don't label that because that's a role and an act to care for other people. That's how I see what a mother is, and it doesn't have to be biological. You know what I'm saying? And I had Susie yesterday, and Susie is a adopted child. And so it really doesn't matter. Like if somebody is acting and caring for another human being, such as a child, that's being a mother hustler. So welcome, Darina.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you so much for being brave and for being here to show up and share your journey. Because you also want to, we are appreciative of our own mother and grandmother, and we pay it forward, although we can always pay tribute to them. So I also want to hear how your childhood was and how your childhood impacted you and helped you mold who you have become today.
Well, that's a big story because my mom is probably one of the original mother hustlers I was born in 65, and she was already this, multi-layered because she had, she grew up with an alcoholic mother and had probably some issues of self-esteem and stuff like that. But she was also incredibly strong and independent and, worldly and fascinated with the world and different cultures and everything. And she was, living in North Beach in the late 50s and early 60s in San Francisco. And, she was studying belly dancing and she was studying Eastern European folk dancing. And when she found out she was pregnant with me, she had this resolve. She was like, I am never going to treat my child the way my mother treated me. Like this backbone of, and she never did. She, she was always mama bear, just like she would kill you if you hurt me. And she, like that kind of mom. And so she met my father through this dancing community. He came from Eastern Europe as a refugee after World War II. And so they met doing all this Eastern European folk dancing. He came from Yugoslavia. And so I grew up with a very international community. I grew up in Oakland. So all my parents' friends were, Greek and Jewish and Vietnamese and, Chinese and Japanese and, everything. Everybody. So I grew up with this worldview that everybody, everybody's the same, but everybody's different, but they're the same, if that makes sense. It's like the acceptance of and celebration of people's differences was actually part of my growing up because those differences made you interesting. It's like I go sleep over at my Chinese friend's house, and in the morning they eat soup, and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Like, we eat waffles and eggs, and wow, you have soup, things like that. But it's, I learned not to judge people, but be interested in people. So, and then all my summers were spent in Yugoslavia, and at this time it was still behind the Iron Curtain, and it was always quite an adventure to get in to the Eastern Bloc. We would, either through airports or borders. Usually we would drive in or take a train in, and going through these borders of Hungary and Yugoslavia, and going to Bulgaria, going to Romania.
Wow.
So all my summers were spent over there learning even more about the world, and that so all these travels made me feel like the world is mine. I'm safe anywhere I go. I can go anywhere I want to. And so I've spent my life going wherever I want to.
How did you see or view because you talk about the Eastern Bloc was still behind the Iron Curtain during that time, and it was very difficult to go through, or there are some challenges of going through those countries. How did you view that as a child? Was it scary for you, or was it just like still an adventure?
It was a little bit of both, but because my parents always made me feel safe. I always knew that, I'm here holding my dad's hand, even though we had to wait 6 hours in a, concrete room to get through. It's like, I'm going to be okay because my dad's here,
Right.
So, and then once we got through and I'm with that family who are, some of my favorite people I've ever known in my life, then you forget all about that.
Tell me what happens in those gatherings.
Well, there's a lot of food, a lot of merriment, this kind of a celebration. Back then it was, I had family in two parts of Yugoslavia. My aunt and uncle, my father's direct sister and her husband lived in it's like a multi-ethnic, it's a Hungarian and Yugoslav population up in the north along the border of Hungary. The others are way in the center of Serbia and very there's only Serbians there. And back then it was still dirt roads. One person in the community had a phone, maybe. Everybody had outhouses. So us coming from America to these villages was like, they're killing goats and cooking them, and the whole village is coming to party for 3 days,
Wow.
So, there was a lot of that.
What an amazing exposure though for someone American, because I think so I traveled to Southeast Asia and there were a lot of Europeans. A lot of Europeans, they call it a holiday when they vacation.
Yeah.
And they go to Southeast Asia, and there was this person because they asked, where are you guys from? And we're like, we're from the United States. And they're like, wow, that's really unique because not many Americans come out of America. And if they do, they go to Europe. They're scared to come to the countries that they think it's third world, and they're scared to do that. So for me, I come from that world, so I didn't need the exposure because I didn't know any better, right? And then I come here and I so appreciate every single thing, every little thing that I have, I appreciate. And grateful for it. And for you, what a great, and that's really what I like to do to my kids is, the one thing that is not my favorite about the holidays here is the material stuff and the commercialized stuff. Because when I was growing up, it was just like how you describe it, food and family and time and chaos, but good chaos and noise. And I miss all that during the holidays. Yeah. So I love that you were exposed to that.
Oh yeah, very much. Yeah. I mean, my mother's side of the family is very small, even though her side of the family has been in California since the gold rush times. And, we've always been in California, but for some reason it's a very small family. So my father's family, they all live in these compounds where there's the elders live in this house, and right next door there's the next generation, and then there's and then there's a kitchen house, and it's all this And, you know, the women are like, you know, because they're all my moms, really.
Yes, it
All the
is.
aunts are like my moms. But, you know, baking bread for the week and fire ovens and feeding the cows and cooking and, you know, moving goats from one field to another. And, you know, like all this, just always something to do. And it's all, you know, we're always outside and we're all, you know, and
It's
always
oh,
food
it's
and
always
cooking.
mother hustling all the
Totally.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, I would love a picture of what you just described today.
I have photos. I've
You know,
always taken photos. My whole life has been documenting things.
seriously?
So yeah,
Okay.
I have photos. I'll show you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Before we go to photography, because that's your profession, and now that you kind of touched on it, I would love to hear about your mom and what kind of a mother she was growing up for you, and what lessons did she instill in you, or values that you carry on with you forever.
Yeah, well, she's she's a really incredible person, and I'm like amazed that she's my mom. She's touched upon her strength, and her worldliness, but she, you know, she's fiercely intelligent and fiercely inquisitive. She's always learning. And when she retired, you know, it was like another life opened up, and now she's, you know, traveling and taking painting classes and quilting and getting together with girlfriends and traveling some more, or, you know, and she just turned 80 and she's still doing it. And
Wow.
yeah, and but as a kid, it was, you know, I talk about the thing of safety. Like I always knew I was safe if she was around, always. And um, there was, you know, there was nothing that couldn't be spoken. I could talk to her about anything. I could ask her anything. Um, and she always made me feel like I could do anything I wanted to do. That there was no, you know, I could be a plumber or I could be a rocket scientist. She, you know, that's my path, and she wasn't going to judge my path or try to lead me to some other path or put in her, you know, like I could do whatever I wanted to do, and she would be like, "Wow, that's amazing," you know.
Be your number one cheerleader, number one
Yeah,
fan.
yeah, and
So awesome.
she, you know, and you know, there's some things you learn about your mom when you're older that you didn't know, you know, because like
Uh-huh.
I grew up, well, once my mother divorced my father because it turns out my father was a malignant narcissist and impossible to live with, which again, they sheltered me and my sister from, I have a little sister, from any issues they had until the
Mhm.
very end. Like we didn't know, like we didn't know there were problems. But so once she divorced him, we moved to a neighborhood that she could afford, which was East Oakland. And we were
Mhm.
one of the only white families around. It was pretty sketchy. Um, you know, I had a gun pulled on me in my neighborhood and
Wow.
things like that. But so I asked her later on, I was like, how did you, like, I'm trying to imagine you've got a 13-year-old and a 6-year-old girl going home alone from school because she's working. Like, how can you possibly deal with that? And she's just like, I had to believe that it was going to work out.
Wow.
Every day was, I have to trust that it's going to be okay. That's all
Mhm.
she could do. And it's like, wow, that is all she could, you know, like we had to go to school, we had to go home, we had to, you know, so I'm just always blown away by
But that was her best.
moms. It's just like what
Yeah.
moms go through is incredible.
Well, that's that, that we get so overwhelmed, and we have a lot of mom guilt,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure you do as well. Um, no matter stepmom, mom, whatever, grandma. it's always, you always want to be the best, but sometimes even though everybody else think it's the best, like you're doing a great job,
Mm-hmm.
you still feel like you are insufficient because you want to give them everything and you want to give them all your time and you want to give them, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
whatever it is, you want to give them the world. As a mom, that's and safe, and we worry a lot, especially when we're away from our children. Like today, I asked my son, "Do you ever think of me when you're in school or when you're away from me?" Like I'm always so interested in asking them about these weird questions. And he was like, "Of course, Mom." I said, "What kind of thoughts do you have?" He says, "Most of the time, I just miss being with you."
Mm.
It's super
That's so
sweet.
sweet.
I know. Most of the time, you just pop in my head, and it's just like, I know, you know.
Sweet.
I'm
Yeah.
like, well, just wait till you're in college, because that's not gonna be like this. That's gonna be a long time before you see me.
Yeah.
But it's your mom was just doing her best,
Yeah.
and um, sometimes that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And there's even a worse situation than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we are given a situation and we run with it. And you have this juggle of, okay, do I go to work and provide and so we can eat and have a roof over our head and be away from each other, or do I figure it out and just starve and until I figure it out? Like, it's tough.
Yeah. Well, I saw her with those struggles. Like I was very aware, like I knew my father never gave us a cent, like
Mm-hmm.
never gave my mom anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so she had to work, and I was very aware of that she was living paycheck to paycheck. Like
Mm-hmm.
we knew by the end of the month, like, can we go to the movies? And she's like, well, we have to wait till next week or what,
Yeah.
that she was, and that she, you know, was trying to find help with, budgeting and how to get through the month and how to, like I was aware of those kind of things going on. And again, when you see that as a child, and then when you think back on it, it's like your perspective goes way to like, whoa, how did she do this with two girls in the house,
Yeah. You have
Oh
you.
my gosh, it's incredible to me, And then she would make it fun though. She would be like, okay, tonight we're gonna have backwards dinner. So we'd go out for ice cream and then we'd come home and have dinner,
Oh,
things
that
like
is
that.
fun.
Yeah.
Fun. I love that backwards dinner.
Backwards dinner, yeah.
Is that a terminology that she developed with you
I
guys?
think so. I never
That
heard
is
anybody else say it.
so cool.
Yeah.
See, and not a lot of things has to cost a lot of money. For kids just want to they just want to play and have fun. And if you
Yeah.
can do that with them as a mom,
Yeah.
they're good.
Yeah.
And those are the times that they'll never forget. It's funny though how you said the values and the knowledge and the lessons that you learn, sometimes some of them you don't figure out until you're an adult. The
Mm-hmm.
same way with me, and like you have to look back and peel your childhood, and I'm like, oh, that's why my grandma used to always say, you always serve and serve and serve,
Yeah.
because it'll always come back to you 10 times or more.
Yeah.
And I never, as a child, I remember like it would go in and come out the other side, because like it didn't make sense to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so until it happens, and it's been happening to me, right? Especially the more I serve people, the more it, like, literally it comes back way more. And it's just because I started my spiritual journey at 35 4 years ago, and I'm 39 now. So within the last 4 years, it's just been like, that's why she always said that,
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So are you very frugal now?
Oh yeah.
Or like very conscious about the finances because you saw your mother go through that?
Yeah. And yeah, I'm really frugal. And I married a Scotsman, so if you know about Scottish reputation, they're very frugal too. So yeah, we live very simply, and I think because he grew up, you know, his parents were old school, very working class, Scottish, urban people too. So it's like we have both, we shun gluttony. Like we, you know, we have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. It's 1,000 square feet and it's a palace to us. Like this is all we need. This is even sometimes more than we need, you know? And we, you know, we have a modest car, we have a modest, beautiful house that I love. It's a jewel, but it's like, we don't need any more than that.
No, you really don't.
We have, you know, we're more about the experiences. We're more about, you know, let's have money so we can live. So we can travel.
Yes.
We can, you know, have those freedoms. You know, we're not chained to a mortgage that's killing us. You know, we're, you know, so.
I hear you, sister.
Yeah. I see. Do you ever watch House Hunters International? Like,
for sure.
Americans who are going to Europe or other places in Asia to buy, and they're like, oh, this bedroom's so small, and oh, I need 5 bedrooms because I have 3 children. It's like, your kids can share a room. Like, you know,
yes.
I grew
it's
up
actually more fun.
And we had a VW Beetle, and there were 4, you know.
It's so fun. It makes life fun too because of the experience, like you said, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the way that your kids are going to grow up is going to be because how the parents spoil them. Like, we can give our kids so much right now. Like, they just get one shoes until the shoe falls apart.
Oh, I'm like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I could buy them 10 pairs of shoes. Like one day, because I'm so like that, my son had a hole in his shoes, my oldest. I think he was 9 years old. And I said, son, we need to get you another pair of shoes. Your shoe has a hole in it. And he was like, Mom, what kid needs 2 pairs of shoes? And I almost cried when I said that. I'm like, well, your shoe has a hole. You need a new one. And he was like, well, I wear socks. It's fine. You know, like, I'm so happy that they say that because, I mean, it's so frivolous to have so much shoes. And like, even me, I was in my closet and I hate throwing things away.
Yeah.
Like,
and you come from a country with the ultimate diva of shoe wear. Like,
exactly.
I grew up knowing about Imelda Marcos guy. Oh my gosh. Like, it's kind of a sickness in a way.
It was. She was sick about it. Well, like I feel like I have so much shoes even. Like I don't have that much shoes, but I keep the real old ones. Like I have problem letting go.
Yeah, me too.
And my husband says you're a hoarder. And I'm like, no, I think about my country when I throw away something. You know, it's not being a hoarder, but it's like, what person could wear this? Like, maybe I'll just put it in a box and send it to the Philippines. Like, he was like, no, it costs more money to send it than what's in it. Just give them the money and they can buy shoes. It's hilarious. So photography, going back on track. You said as a child, you're always taking photos, and now you're this badass photographer in Vancouver, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. And she travels with you if you want to take her, such as traveling to France. And I love, I'm like, oh, I wish I can do that, you know, and everybody can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about how you developed this love of photography. Take us through that journey. Well,
as a kid, I was in a household that we always had National Geographics in the house, and there's, you know, they had this yellow spine, so there was like the shelf with the yellow spines going all down, and I was always just devouring National Geographics, and, you know, they are the standard of nature photography. And I was also really, really, really into music since I was really small. And so I always had Rolling Stone magazine around. And that was during the time when Annie Leibovitz really cut through and, you know, forged a path for photographers and styling. And imagination and coolness and beauty and, you know, captivating images. Like, I mean, I remember, you know, she photographed John Lennon and Yoko Ono together where they're like laying on the floor, you know, it's just like, so I was always fired up about photography growing up, but I always thought photographers were like this other mythological type of creature that, you know, like, you know, I didn't know how I would become a photographer, but so I always had cameras. And with my first job I bought my own camera and I always had it with me. And I've, you know, I've traveled a lot and I've been around a lot, you know, I still have photos, you know, film negatives with, you know, my friends and me back in the 80s and during the 90s.
Wow.
And when it went digital, you know, I have all these stacks of, you know, CDs and hard drives full of photos. And I didn't really learn that I could do it professionally until about 12 or 13 years ago.
Wow.
I was a graphic designer before that. And it was graphic design and my skills with computers that allowed me to travel the world and work as a freelancer. But so when I came back to the States, I had kind of not been doing graphics for about 10 years. So I went back to school to brush up on the software because, you know, you can imagine the Adobe software during 10 years time, how much it had changed. And so I had a classmate who rocked my world because we became really good friends. We were sitting next to each other in class. But I was always bringing photos in to work on. And she's like, oh my God. And she's like, Darina, I'm getting married in Mexico and you're going to be my photographer. And I'm like, what? Really? You know?
Me? Not her.
And so she's like, yeah, I'll fly you down and you're going to shoot my wedding. So it's like, okay. Wow. Okay. So I got my head around that. And then that really launched it all. That really, I felt more like, I never felt like I had a calling before. And then that really made it like, oh, this is all I want to do. Like, this is all I want to do. And then it grew into, how can I be Annie Leibovitz without having to go to New York or LA and get into this sharky, cutthroat fashion world. So I created that for the everyday person. Like, I want to do this for real people because I don't want to work with models anyway. I imagine that many would be difficult. Sorry if you're a model, nothing personal, but that's maybe my thing. So I want to do that. I want to make it look like a magazine. I want to make it look editorial. I want to dress you up and do your makeup and do your hair and have you feel like you're in Vogue without having to be in Vogue, you know, like it's, and that just made my body just go, whoa, this is it. This is it. This is it. And it's like all I think about.
Wow. You have done a really great job. The way that you describe who you want to be in the photography world, because it's an ocean. It's a huge, huge world. And there are many that just don't quite know how to define themselves away and stand out from that ocean. Because when you defined it for me today, like I never really understood your space as much as now. I mean, I've understood it some because you bring the magazine to our meetings, right? Yeah. But when you say the way that you just said it, I don't even know how to say it, but the way that you just said it, I could see that you just know this is who you are. This is the delivery you're going to do. This is how you're going to make people feel. And you're going to own that space and stay within the realm of that space.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. And that's probably the biggest reason why you stand out, because most photographers don't stand out. Do you realize that most photographers don't stand out?
Yeah, I don't like to criticize other photographers.
Well, you shouldn't, right?
But I'll critique if they ask for it. But there are a lot of, well, it's like any walk of life. There are people who just, they do the work and they're solid and they get paid and they're making a living and they're supporting their families. But I'm always like, I have a tendency to, I want to go further. I want to go further. I want to be better. I want to stand out. I want to be better. I want to be, you know, and maybe it's a little bit of a competitive thing, like, oh, you know, but.
No, but you said something about that. What's the photographer's name that you said, I want to bring that to everyday people? What's her name again?
Annie Leibovitz.
Yeah. And so you modeled somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like you have a model.
Yeah. I mean, she's the standard. She's, you know, and there's others. There's, you know, I mean, she's the one who's I grew up with, but then there's like Richard Avedon and, you know, all these, you know, other people that are in the realm, Mario Testino, you know, her Brit, that, you know, the way they play with light and the way they play with emotion, the way they get, it's like, yeah, I want to do that, but I want to do that with real people, you know?
Yeah.
So exciting, like the way people feel. And that's what, with any business, the way you make people feel is the number one thing that makes them want to do business with you, that makes them want to be with you, they wants, you know, they want to refer you, they want to spend money with you because it's so awesome.
And it shows in your work. Like when you were talking about who you are as a photographer, I start seeing the pictures that you showed me in those magazines, like, oh.
And you're in there.
And that. Yes, you know, and I'm in there, and it's really nice to be in a magazine, you know, like even though it's not an official magazine, it's Darina's magazine.
It's my magazine.
And
I don't know if it matters or not, but you're frozen. Your video is frozen on my end. Can you hear me? Oh, are you back?
yes.
Okay, cool.
All right. So the magazine, I was just scanning through what I saw in the magazine. I'm like, oh, that's exactly what she's talking about right there. It's amazing. I'm just blown away by just the fact that you know exactly where your space is. So congratulations for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about motherhood. Because you're a stepmom of two? Two. Tell me about that. Talk about that.
Well, when I met the man whom I'm in a relationship now, which is 13 years and going, 14 years almost. Odom. He told me right off the bat that he has two daughters and that they will always be ahead of me, basically. Like, they will always be a priority in his life. So I'm like, okay. At the time, the eldest was 18 and just going into college. So, you know, she was making her way in the world and she was living in Atlanta. We had moved to Austin, Texas, and she was in Atlanta. The youngest one, I guess at that time, she was 10 or so. Anyway, she was living with her mom and they had moved to Florida. So I didn't have a close relationship, but they knew who I was. We had entered into a serious relationship and that I was going to be in the picture and all that. So eventually when the youngest one was 14, she came to live with us. And she came to live with us because of the troubles within her home with her mom. It was very tumultuous. She was exhibiting some, what do you call it? Just risky behavior. So her mom was like, you guys give her a try. We're like, more than happy to. He was more than happy to, because,
of course,
it's his baby girl, and he had been wanting to give it a go as a parent to her for a long time. So she came to live with us, and it was really fascinating stepping into that role and having not only a 14-year-old in the home, but a troubled one. And it was very, very challenging, but I
imagine.
Just remembered, all these things. My mom, it was just like, you take it day by day, and it has, it's gonna work out. Like, it's just, we'll get through the day. And one of the things I learned is having a united front with your partner. Like, that was a really strong thing for us, is that we were steady as a rock. She couldn't play us one off the other. We always had the same answer, no matter how much she would try to wiggle through something, that we were a rock. And I think whether you're with a partner or a single parent, that you got to be consistent, you got to be steady. And, we really believed in not having a lot, nobody shouted, nobody screamed, nobody used cuss words at anybody, nobody, it's just, this is the information I'm giving you, this is what the deal is, these are the rules, now let's go have some fun if we can, just, and every day was, but it was very challenging. She really, really pushed it, and she really pushed it. So, and then the other one, she just, it's like, there's an interesting, and I'm sure with biological parents it might be the same too, that thing where there's a friendship thing, but then there's a parental thing as well. So it's like, I love to feel like we're friends, because like we're really close. Like I love her so much, and I know she loves me, and she loves the relationship that her father has with me, because she saw him on his own first. He raised her pretty much on his own when she was, her mother had passed, and all this stuff. So it's like, she's happy that he finally found somebody who is worthy. And so it's like, I'm sure she looks up to me in some way, because I'm older than she is, obviously, and a parental figure, but like, we're friends too. And that's really, 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 really cool. And now she's like in law school, and top percentile of, got a full scholarship and all this stuff. And she's really, really amazing. And she can't wait to become a mom too. So she's going to be a super mother hustler.
You're going to be grandma.
Someday, I know. Which is
talking about the friends and the parental thing, it's really a tough balance, because you have to have authority, and when you be more friend than parent, the authority, you kind of lose it, and they sort of see you as more of a equal energy versus looking up to you or respecting you when you make certain decisions they don't like. So it can be very hard boundary, but you have to create that boundary.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah, I do. As an observer of families, it's like, it does make me a little uneasy when it's too friendy. Like, I do think there has to be authority from the parents, and not, be all palsy, because there are lessons to be learned, and there has to be that hierarchy.
Yeah. You have to be more of like a mentor for them,
Right.
It has to be, it's not like a authority where it's mean. It has to be more of like a, I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, it's not meanness. No.
No, it's I don't know how to call it. But anyways, that's awesome that you have some of those experience because
Yeah.
it is some, it is a challenging role to be in, especially when you step in at 14 years old. That's a tough age.
Oh, it's tough for anybody. Yeah.
Super tough age, even if she wasn't a troubled child, but just a normal child. That is still a tough age. And
Me
then
at
you
14.
oh yes, and you bring a layer of troubles and a layer of meeting, the stepmom, and I mean
Mhm.
all that stuff come together. It's
Yeah.
going to be difficult.
Yeah. And we really believed as well that, because when you're 14 and you're pushing it, and, you're not always going to just listen and obey rules and, you know, listen to blah, blah, blah. So we really were like, we just need to teach by example. We need
Yeah.
to just live our lives with integrity and honesty and trust and support for all involved, and just be an example, like walk the walk. Like you can't
Yes.
just like blah, blah, blah. A lot of parents just do blah, 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 and then they do other stuff. Like they lay down rules and then they break them themselves. And it's like, we can't stand that. It's like, you
Yeah.
have to be true to your word and in front of your kids.
Yeah.
100%, 1,000%. Like you have
Yes.
to live and walk the walk.
Yeah. I talk about this in the earlier episode about parents that says to their kids, you can do whatever you want. You can be who you want to become if you put your mind in, if you put your mind into it and work hard, you could be blah, blah, blah. Like you said, blah, blah, blah. I always say, kids, what I find, because I study my kids a lot too, I study myself a lot. I study my kids and how they react to things
Mm-hmm.
that I do. And then I use that as a feedback for myself that, okay, that didn't work. Maybe I should do it differently. Like I do all those experiments and testing, and what I find that kids don't listen to what I say for the most part, and then you get louder and then you get louder and then they really tune out, and so, and what they listen to is what you do and what you show them. And so I changed the way that I, like when I tell my kids to put away the dishes, because my kids have been trained for a long time. Even when they broke dishes, I let them put dishes away because that's how you freaking learn and mess the F up and then you figure it out. And
Hey,
so
you learn more through your mistakes than anything, I think.
yeah. And so when my kids were little, I always made them eat whatever and just mess them up and wash them off. And then pretty soon, like it's not even long, pretty soon they know how to use a spoon, a fork, and clean. And like when I brought them home to the Philippines and they were 4 or 5, and like everybody was, because in the Philippines we feed kids, with spoon, and we don't want kids to get dirty because it creates more work for us as parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I brought them home, and when you're in the States, you don't have maids. We grew up with some maids back home, so the maids will feed us and whatever. But when you're here, you do everything. And back home, you have maids that will do everything, other than going to school, obviously. But it's when I brought him home, and like the parents, they were like, wow, you just put the plate in front of your kids and they eat. And I'm like, yeah. Because I trained them. Like I let them be messy, and then they figure out it's yucky, and then they won't do it again. It's like, and then my sister was like, I want to be the parent that you are. Like it's such an honor for my little sister to say, like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, well, you kind of have to include them in your team. You're not alone. You have to use them as part of your team. And so as part of your team, they can put away dishes. They can help you. And I always joke, that's why you have kids, so you have help. But my kids have put away dishes, and when I tell them to put it away, they don't do it. But when I say, let's do it, let's go do it, I'll help you. Like they do it, you know, like faster than when I just say, hey, let's, right?
Yeah.
No, serious. It's so
Yeah.
true. And I'm glad you and Odom are doing that because.
And it's so funny because you know, looking back as a kid, like I hated doing dishes, but it was a lot of the time it was my thing to do dishes, but I didn't mind doing it in the morning. I just couldn't stand doing it at night. And that used to drive my mom nuts because it was like, but I'll do it in the morning. Like, but she was like, I can't stand them sitting there all night, you know, like,
Yes.
so.
No, I hear you. That's
sometimes
awesome.
you have your own rhythm to respect too. I don't know.
Well, moms only have time at night. And then in the morning, we don't have time.
Yeah.
Like I always tell my kids, I have very limited time. So my son asked me, Mom, can you sew? Because I know, you know, I know how to hand sew stuff, like little holes. Mom, can you sew this shirt that has this hole? And I'm like, yeah, remind me in the weekend because I don't have time during the week. Do you need it tomorrow? Because if you need it tomorrow, I'll sew it tonight. But my mama always said, I always tell them, my mama always said, don't sew at night. It's bad luck or something. Like we have so much superstitious belief. And anyways, so question, or no, not question for you. Message for your mom. If she was listening to you today, what would you tell her?
Well, I tell my mom everything anyway, I think. And she knows I love her so much, but just thanks for always being so endlessly fascinating and intelligent and inquisitive and ever evolving. Thanks for being ever evolving, because that is what it's all about on this planet.
Growing,
moving forward, keep moving, keep getting better. And she epitomizes that. So
wow.
Thanks, Mom.
Wow, that's awesome. What is your message to your kids, to your stepkids?
Oh.
And what are their names?
Well, Chelsea's the oldest. She's the one in law school, and Ellie is the youngest. Just that I'm here for you whenever you need me, whatever you need. You can always come to me and you can always talk to me with no judgment. Ever.
What are your message to moms out there, including stepmoms, because you are in that role, and maybe women in general, because we have so much issues, right? Just even internally that we create for our own selves. What's that advice that you can give all of us?
Well, on a personal level, yeah, just always be learning, always learn about yourself, always learn what's really true to you and what integrity is to you, and walk that walk and be an example. Let your kids be themselves. And create structure for them, for sure, in through kindness, obviously. You have to be. That's something I believe in a lot. Make them feel safe. Like I said, that was a huge thing for me, like feeling safe in the world. Like I'm safe anywhere in the world, because I knew as a child growing up that I was safe.
That's wonderful.
On a professional level, moms, be photographed with your kids. It is the most powerful thing. I have photographs with my parents and my parents with their parents, and to be able to have those and pass them on and know that, you know, someday people are going to see these things, and, or, you know, if, you know, it's your sons, for example, you know, you just had photos taken with Irina, which are just so amazing. And when they grow up and say they have daughters one day and they can see how strong and beautiful their grandmother was at that age now, you know, and just keep that going on. It's like, it's something I believe in really deeply. That
you just gave me goosebumps.
Wow, this is, I mean, imagine if you had a photo of your grandmother, 39 years old, in her domain. Like, it's just,
I know you
It's
give me
huge.
goosebumps.
It's like be seen, because moms especially, it's like you do so much for everybody else. You're always giving. You're always, you take photos of your kids and you're not in the like, it's like,
So true.
spend a day for yourself, spend half a day, come be with whoever your favorite photographer is, spend time, like, be seen, be with a photographer who can make you be seen the way people see, because you're like, whatever your age or weight or whatever your hangups are, because we all have some kind of hangups, your kids don't see that. Your kids, when they see a photo of you,
I know, right?
they love you exactly the way you are right now. They love you. So don't be afraid to get those moments captured and, to have and hold forever,
It's funny because you say that your kids don't see you the way that you judge yourself. They don't. It's I don't know when it was where I wore this. I think was going to a gala or something, and I cleaned up and wore a really nice dress and put heavier makeup on, and I was joking around with my kids because when they saw me, they're like, "Oh, Mom, you're so beautiful," and I love that because they're boys, right? And I always say, "So are you saying I'm not beautiful any other day?"
I just put
like,
makeup on to be beautiful.
Just like joking, and they're like, "No, Mom," but it's like I don't see you very often like that, and it's just so different, and it's funny.
But it's like,
so cool.
I look at photos of, my mom hates being photographed.
Really?
But I get her in front of the camera when I see her, and it's like, you don't look at your mom in a photo. Well, she really could lose 10 pounds. Like we're doing this. It's like, I really need to lose 10 pounds. I really, I have I feel puffy today or whatever. It's like, no kid or anybody, even your best friends, they're not going to look at your photos and go, well, she really does need to lose 10 pounds.
No,
never.
We do that in here.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, I'll give you a really quick example, and you know her, but I won't say any name. On our Friendsgiving brunch, Irina was taking a lot of photos and she posted it on there and was tagging everybody. And I got 2 different ladies messaging me, "Quit tagging me because I look horrible. Quit tagging me because I look like a giant," or like, stop what you tell about yourself.
Yeah.
Because
we're so hard on ourselves.
I know. And I was like, I wasn't tagging you. I was tagging you because of the memories that was created in that room.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like this child that you just said that I didn't see you as you need to lose 10 pounds or you look like a giant. That is you saying that about yourself. You need to stop doing that and just own it. Like, yes, maybe you need in your mind to lose 10 pounds, but who you are right now, you should just appreciate it because you get to eat whatever you want. Like there is no judgment, and it's the tagging press. Like, quit tagging like unimpressive photos of me. Why do we have to be impressive? Like, me, I don't give a F. And I just feel like women, we're so harsh on ourselves.
We are.
Especially moms.
We are.
So that's a great message. Thank you for that.
And everybody's drop dead gorgeous to me. Right? I mean, everybody
such a great
is beautiful.
I know.
The way they are.
Especially the candid photos. I really love the candid ones. What last question. What's your definition of mother hustler? And when you hear or when you heard that word, what came to mind?
My sister. You should interview my sister. And my mom. But like mother hustler, it's like the instant image that I had was like just, women who are just strong and getting things done and having kids and just, having eating life, just like, I'm working, I'm having kids, I'm doing it. It's going to work out. It's hard sometimes. It sucks sometimes, but sometimes it's so great, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of what came to mind. And
Thank you.
yeah, my sister, she is, you should learn about her.
You should send me info about her.
Out there saving the world. Like, yeah,
That's
she's got
amazing.
2 boys. She has 2 boys as well. And
That's amazing. Yeah, I would love to get to know her. That would be awesome.
yeah.
Darina, can you tell my listener where to find you? Which social media do you usually hang around with? And your website?
My website is www. You don't have to say that anymore, right? It's just darinaphoto.com, DARINA photo.com. I am on Facebook a lot, and on my personal page it's Darina Neyret. My professional page is Darina Neyret Portrait, and I'm on Instagram also as Darina Neyret Portrait. I'm on there irregularly. I want to get more consistent with that, and that's pretty much it. I'm not on Twitter or things like that. So
I have yet to figure it. I'm on Twitter.
yeah, it's like I have enough going on, right?
Awesome. Well, thank you for showing up the way that you do, and thank you
so much, and thank you for creating a community that I really, you know, I moved here 2.5 years ago, almost 3, and it's like, wow, I'm already part of this amazing community. It's
such a
huge part of that. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you a lot. Appreciate your collaboration even with other women, not just other women, other moms and photographers even.
Yeah.
So thank you for being collaborative within your peers and within the community, and also serving the community, because you are such a servant leader that helps others and are always showing people's truth through your photography. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.